Hello everybody, Omni here. Before we jump into the video, a little reminder to check me out on the Stardust app. You can get my early reactions to TV shows, movies, and trailers, a lot of things that I don't get to cover here on the channel. You can also post your own 30-second reactions of whatever it is you're watching. It's free to download, free to sign up, and it's a lot of fun, so go check that out. Anyway guys, on to the review. Earlier today, I saw the live-action remake of Disney's Lion King, and if you've been around the channel for a little while now, if you've seen my reactions, then you know I've voiced some concerns about this focus on the hyper-realism of the animation of these animals and the emotional impact that was going to have on the storytelling and the your ability to empathize with the characters we're following in this movie. And I feel like after seeing the movie, I was 100% right in those concerns. There are so many emotional moments in this movie that are completely lost because lions, out of any animal in the animal kingdom, have two expressions: boredom and anger. When they are predatory, when they are hunting, when they are, in the heat of the moment, baring their teeth. Aside from that, they always have the face, the resting lion face. And that is the biggest hindrance in this movie at telling an emotional story. And it also suffers from, you can't avoid, unlike some of the other Disney remakes, you cannot avoid comparing this to the original. Because more so than any of the remakes we've had up to this point, this is the most copy and paste out of all of them. This is 97% a shot-for-shot remake of the Lion King animated movie. Except there are things taken out that doesn't make any sense. There's things added in here to make up for some of those things, but somehow this movie is still longer than the original film, but they take out so much. Yet there's so many scenes in this that are just copy and paste, like they just traced over it with a tracing paper and then CGI'd it all onto the screen. Now, that's not to underplay the technical marvel that this movie has really achieved. The visuals in this movie and the ability to realistically bring all of these animals to life, is just such an achievement in filmmaking and in computer, the technology that it takes to make these films. It's just such a huge milestone that I think that it should always get that kind of regard for it. This movie is just inferior in every other way. The characters are expressionless. The voice acting is much weaker, and that's even comparing it to a movie where the main character is voiced by Matthew Broderick at a point. And even the fact that they have James Earl Jones back as Mufasa is very just not utilized in a way that makes it interesting because his character can't be expressive. There's a lot of moments throughout the film where the characters are experiencing joy, sadness, some type of emotion other than just pure boredom, that you can hear it in the voice, but there's just a disconnect in your brain because it doesn't match up with what you're seeing on the screen. And I'm not going to go, there's no spoilers in this because I don't think you can be spoiled. I don't know how you have not seen the original at this point. It's available in so many different formats that if this is your first experience with this film, I don't know how you did it. It honestly has to be your parents' fault that you hadn't seen the animation before you saw this movie. Not to undercut, this isn't a bad movie. It's not awful. It's still an entertaining movie. It's still a visual marvel. It's just weaker in every way. Which, again, begs the question with all these Disney remakes, why are they doing it? That's because they got us hook, line, and sinker on that nostalgia. And they just rope us in. And then there's a whole generation of people who somehow, through some poor parenting, this is their first version of The Lion King that they would be seeing. The best part of this movie that I can honestly say, aside from the visuals, is Timon and Pumbaa. That's it. They are the only thing in this movie that genuinely get me to feel some kind of emotion that isn't predicated on my prior existing knowledge and experience and memories of the original film. And they were the only ones that I heard get laughs out of in the theater, is just Timon and Pumbaa. And that is because out of all the voice actors that they had in this film, they are the only ones that were giving a real performance from me that I could take, that I was able to perceive. Beyonce was the worst one in this. Danny Glover was doing his best, and just James Earl Jones, you cannot top that. But it's just the animation doesn't support their voices when they cannot show the emotion you're hearing in the voice. Whoever the kid is that played young Simba was just eye rolling the entire time for me. Now, for really young audiences, I don't feel like any of this is going to be a hindrance, but I think if you're 10 and older, I don't see how you don't find any kind of flaw in that. But maybe, who knows? Maybe it's just me, but like there's so many moments in this that there's a lot of fun that's sucked out of it because there's a lot of things that they just couldn't translate from the animation into this because of how focused they were on making it real. There's so many iconic moments that are just cut completely, as far from just the I cannot wait to be king. That whole sequence is just way less impactful. The ravine scene is just cringy. Especially the moment where you get the dolly up onto Simba when Mufasa falls into the ravine and he yells no. It's just dead. It's emotionally dead. The missing part of this is because of the focus on the reality of it. In the animation, Simba just goes wide, jaw dropped, his eyes filled with fear. And in this one, it's literally just a dolly up on his face while he's just like, no. Because the only thing on the lion's faces in this movie that move is the jaw. That is it. And that is the problem with doing this in this fashion. Now, anytime you're not supposed to be emotionally invested, it's still great. Timon and Pumbaa steal the scenes throughout this whole thing. There were so many moments though where it was trying to hit those emotional beats of the original that I just had to roll my eyes. This, again, isn't awful. Maybe I'm just a little more upset about it because Lion King is a masterpiece. That is my favorite. Second favorite. Okay, my favorite's not actually the best Disney movie, but The Lion King is the best Disney animated film. As far as production, story, visuals, all of it, in my opinion. And it was the first Disney film I ever saw in a theater. And when it released, by the way, originally. And so maybe it just means a lot more to me. And to a lot of people because critics are hating this movie right now. The audience score, given it's only been out for 2 days, is about 89% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. I'm really curious to see how that pans out here in the next couple of days, going into the rest of this film's life cycle. But, I mean, people in the theater had a good time. Like I said, I feel like younger audiences will still have a good time for this because they're not gonna, their brains just aren't going to be as critical, even though as a kid, like that stuff always bothered me. Because as much as I loved Homeward Bound when I was growing up, this movie reminded me of Homeward Bound, where you just have a dog sitting there and then a voiceover. It's almost the same thing. But still, this movie is carried by the technical artists that brought the visuals to life and is being carried by the nostalgia of the original movie. If you like the original Lion King, you'll like this movie because it is just that movie, just a little worse. there's some things they added in here, just some contextual dialogue that kind of added a little more backstory to some of the characters, mainly Scar and his previous relationship with Mufasa, that I did really like. That was really good. Some of the set pieces were really good, even though they are just copy and pasted from the original. They did kind of try to flesh out Simba a little bit more in this, and his little lifestyle with Timon and Pumbaa. Um, Aside from that, this movie's okay. It's it's the most disposable out of the Disney live action remakes that I've seen. I really liked Aladdin. Beauty and the Beast tried to do some different stuff. Ultimately, I didn't enjoy that either. But this one I at least enjoyed. I didn't feel bad for seeing it. I had an okay time. I just didn't have any kind of emotional investment in this movie, and that was only because of the voice acting and just the way that animals are animated. I don't know. And not a lot of the voice. They've got some big names in this movie to fill a lot of these roles, but I don't know if it's just because they haven't voice acted before or what, but there's a lot of people in this movie that you would think would give a great performance that just really drop the ball. Um, Donald Glover is decent. James Earl Jones does a great job. Beyonce's awful in my opinion. Her song is just as throwaway too. So I know a lot of people are loving that too, but I've only heard it for the little segment that comes up in the movie. There is like one new song that she does and performs, but it didn't wow me. There's like a 3-minute scene of following Simba's tuft of fur, uh, just kind of travel across the lands of Africa in some ridiculous way, and even like a portion of it, it's literally just a ball of poop being pushed by a dung beetle. Rafiki has all of the interest and joy of that character completely stripped away, and I just can't. I just have too much of a love for the original. Even if I erased the original from my mind completely, this movie, and this is where we're going to rate the film, is a 7. I'd give it a 7. Where I would probably give the animation a 9 or a 10, this movie's a 7, borderline 6, just on its own merits. Like I said, the strongest thing about this movie is just the technical visual marvel that it is. That's it. You'll have a good time maybe if you see it. If you're I don't know. I don't know what like the general reactions are going to be for this going into it. I don't know yet. I just I they should be remaking the movies that didn't do that great, or the ones that people don't really recognize as much. Where is A Sword in the Stone live action? That one would be the most fitting. Have a King Arthur tale done with Merlin. Do that. Or Atlantis, or some of the lower tier movies that not as many people watched or grew up with. Treasure Planet. I don't know. Do something that didn't need it. A lot of the films that they're doing, aside from Dumbo, have been like their most well received and closest to our hearts ones, and I think that's just only because they know that we'll pay to see it again and see what they do differently, and hope maybe they do something different. Aladdin did enough different in it that I found it much more entertaining than any of the other ones. It had a life to it. It had an expression. It had a story to tell. It had things that it changed, that it made different. As minimal as they might be, gave me a different experience watching it. And we're still going to give them our money. And they're still going to make these movies. All right, guys. Have you seen The Lion King? The remake. How did it hold up for you? What were your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments down below. Let's carry on this conversation after the video because my throat hurts after just venting about this movie a little bit. I could have ripped into it harder, but I got to be a little restrained here. But this is my concise, controlled, and level opinion of this movie. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. And if you like this video, which probably I'll have a lot of people disagreeing with me, like if you want to support the channel though, like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments what you didn't like, what you disagree with me about. We'll have that conversation. But thank you guys for watching if you're still here, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.